the FRK Plus in the new Ibolic, and we're here with Chewy.
My name's Chewy Rain, like you mentioned. I've been with Firewire from day one, almost 16 years. I've been part of the whole R&D aspect of the board builds prior to Kelly, prior to everybody else. I've rejected more technologies than we've made, so my experiences and my exposure to the boards have been greater than anyone in our company, and I've had the privilege to sign off on boards that go well and reject the boards that don't go well.
And he's been riding it for quite a few days.
Quite a while. Actually, I had the first original one, so I kind of signed off on it, and I kind of contributed to become a little bit more of a dad bod board because my FRK historically has worked great until the waves got soft, and then I would put it away for summer. So since it worked so well and the rocker was so clean for good waves, I felt like if it had a little more volume and turned into a squash, it would fit in the line really well. We didn't have a lot of high performance boards then, and by chance, it's Kelly's first board that he signed off. Usually he either gets way down the road on boards and doesn't do them, or he's all in. And this was the first one he's ever been like, yep, this is the one, I'm riding it. Let's go to town. This is easy. And that's one of the best things about this board is that we got his approval like that, which is great. But more importantly, it has the DNA of the FRK, which is a great good wave board. Now we're dealing with about riding it. You're going to be riding about an inch shorter than your regular board. This is 5'11" at 30 liters instead of a 6'0". So it's a little bit tapered off. The rails is like the most difference between the board. The rocker is going to be the same. Obviously, the tail is going to change from round tail to squash, but the rails are just a little bit fuller and they sit a little bit more out of the water, which makes it great for smaller, mushy days. So the FRK Plus squash is like kind of my go-to board now, and super excited about it and looking forward to having stoking a lot of people out and getting this guy in the water. Yeah. You know, Kelly's rides really thin boards, really low volume boards for a solid guy, and I pointed to him, we need a little bit more foam for the rest of the guys because after 26 liters, that's where all the market is. So he wasn't opposed to it, and he signed off on it. And honestly, I think it's been a really good transition where we know it works extremely well for Kelly, but also it works well for me. I'm at 30 liters, and the conversion from a board at 30 liters to 35, 37 is a lot easier. That's high end, but it's an easier transition than trying to go from 25 to 30 and have the dynamics of the board still create that board that worked at a smaller liter.
So the FRK originally is more of a bladey board, a little bit longer.
Correct.
Pintail.
Yep.
And this is a stubbier version that's more versatile.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Still has the same fin placement, which is critical. Still has the same rocker, which is critical. The rocker of Mann and his fin placement historically has done extremely well in all conditions. It's what made the Dominator so popular. You could anybody can ride it. It's got the DNA of like California surf. So we know that works. The thinner rails on the FRK, Kelly was able to dominate in good waves, particularly powerful waves. So that's been a plus for that particular board and for Mann.
And then it's in the new Ibolic construction. So what's the difference between the Ibolic construction and the
LFT?
Yeah, the LFT.
Yeah. So Ibolic eventually will replace all the LFT in the market. We're starting off with a few boards first, just to get caught up to the demand. But the Ibolic is critical because what we were able to do is basically mimic what we've done with our balsa boards. We made a parabolic rail, but with high density foam. So what you're seeing out here is actually foam framing the board from tip to tail with a tail block. So that supports a really thin core. And then what we've done is we've added the I-beam from the FRK, excuse me. And what we've done is we tapped it off so that it's actually an I-beam, not just a center stringer foam. So we're able to create a lot more strength, about 20% stronger without gaining any significant weight, and still maintain that pop, that flex characteristic that is notorious for helium in some of our other boards.
So why not just have one I-beam going across and no Ibolic, what is it, stringers or
the foam rails? Yeah, well, it's the best way to make a board stronger without adding too much lamination. So instead of making the deck and the bottom stronger, which is easy to do, you're going to make the board stiffer. You're going to make the board with less flex. This gives you the ability to have the torsional flex that happens with our boards without losing that pop. And that's contributing from the foam rails. So you're leaning in, and it's not under your foot that's flexing. It's the outside that's flexing. So the nose and the tail kind of follow the suit of your turn and kind of releases and loads up. So that to me is like the holy grail, is you can get a board, and that happens to all boards if they're really thin. Not everybody can paddle them, but if they're really thin, you can overflex a board relatively easy. But when you get the right volume, it's really hard to get a board to, without having a really light lamination, to do the flexing that occurs with these boards.
So an average surfer, when they're like loading up at the bottom, they'll probably feel that board and just like just come off the...
Anybody that starts with a bottom turn is going to gain way more momentum than for their next turn, and then it goes to the next turn and the next turn. So loading the board up makes a huge contribution to your surfing because you're going to gain more speed.
Yeah. So in essence, an average surfer will be able to start feeling it.
Oh yeah. You lean in on it, you're going to see the pop. Yeah, for sure.
Right on.
Yeah.
So how's the flow wise? Is it closer to like a regular EPS or like the heat?
It actually is. It actually is. For the fact that we're using a 2-pound EPS core, it sits lower in the water, and the reason being is because we have a high density skin over it, and that brings the foam down. And then you have the foam rail, so it's a dual core board. Technically, you have a light core in the middle, you have the support for the high density foam, and when you combine that together under vacuum bag, it's extremely strong, and it's also really durable and still maintains the flex.
Okay. So one of the things that people always ask when they buy a new board or if it's new construction, if I ding it, how do I repair it?
Well, it's like any other convention repair. You got to make sure that you use epoxy resin. Okay. With EPS, though, you want to almost have if it's a significant hole, you want to have a cheater coat, meaning that you seal it lightly, so then you apply more resin afterwards, because EPS is open cell. You're going to get resin that's going to go through the board, and you keep filling it up. You're going to create a dead spot in the board. You don't want that.
Oh, so you put a little layer.
You put a little cheater coat, yeah, with barely any resin on it, and then you're able to have that harden, and then you build off of that. That way the resin doesn't leak into the core, and you create a dead spot, which makes it more fragile.
It's like plastering a wall.
Yeah, exactly. You put a little starter coat so it doesn't go all the way through.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Oh, right on.
Yeah, learn something every day.
So, you know, like if you're surfing, you ding the board, you're like, frick, I just keep on surfing.
Yeah.
What's the best way to dry the board out?
Actually, the best way to dry it out is add fresh water into the ding. Let it sit in your car for a minute or two in the sunlight, and it'll come out.
Let it bake in the car and let it...
Not crazy, but just, yeah, you just want to have it, like, give it a fair amount of time. Even outdoors in the sun is fine. Okay. Car's probably not the best idea because people will roll the windows up and you're going to hotbox it to death, and you don't want that. You don't want to create more problems. But yeah, that is the best way to do it. You take the fresh water into the ding, gets the salt out, and then the rest of the water comes out evenly.
Yeah, because all that bacteria just starts stinking in there, huh?
Yeah, well, it's just salt just makes a layer. Oh. You want to get the salt out so it dries faster. Yeah. That's the best way to do it. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.